Hello. Okay, so 35 seconds in. It's Friday Reads. This is Sonia from An Enthusiastic Reader, and here we are with a Friday Reads chat. I haven't done one in a while, and I thought I would check in with you and let you know what books I've read recently and what I'm reading now, and just say hi. So here we are, and let's get started. My notes say, informal chat about what's happening in my reading life lately. That sounds really great. Okay, currently reading. I am reading A Light in August by William Faulkner. Reading this as a group read. Is that what we're calling it? A read-along with Brian from Bookish. Hi, Brian. And with Alan from Big Hard Books. They are making some primo content about Light in August as we're reading chunks every week. I think we're reading like 5 chapters a week and then kind of talking about it in the comments of these videos on Saturday mornings or Saturdays during the day. I haven't made any videos about it. They're making such great videos, and also Tillie is making good videos, and so I'm going to link those below. I think you could get caught up if you wanted to, or you could just look at them from afar and just kind of absorb Faulkner through the videos without even reading it, probably. But that has been great. The conversations in the comment sections have been really fun, and it's making August go well for me. Let's get to what I've recently finished. I've read a couple of fantastic books and some that are just kind of in the middle. And the first that was in the middle for me is Godland, A Story of Faith, Loss, and Renewal in Middle America by Lenz. And the reason I picked this book up is not because I'm religious. I'm not, and I'm not at all involved in any of the Christian movement she's talking about, but the premise of the book is that she was raised as an evangelical Christian in a very strict family that was very, they had a very prescribed way of living, and then she married someone who was just like her parents, and she did everything she could to try and find her place in church, and she was just bristling, though, at the patriarchal structure of it and how men did not let women really shine or take leadership roles, and it made her crazy because she's really smart and funny and very faithful. So she and her husband, with some other people, started a church, and then the same things happen again. I guess they're chapters. Yeah, these books are each chapter is about a different realm of the evangelical and Christian movement in America and how people are leaving churches and why. And then when President Trump got elected, it broke up her marriage because she just couldn't live with the fact that her husband was a Trump supporter and she wasn't. And I know her from all of the essays and the profiles. She's a magazine profile writer that I've seen, and I've been following her on Twitter for years. I really like her personality, and I really like some of the essays that I've read online. Anyway, I don't know if you follow Liz Lenz. She has a newsletter and that I subscribe to, and I like her. The book I felt could have done more. It was unsatisfying to me. But I do like the sensibility of it, and I do like the content of it. So, and it does make you think about people who aren't so buying into the whole conservative political movement that's attached to the church. And I feel weird even talking about it since I'm not in a church, but I'm watching from the outside, and those things that happen in those places do affect us policy-wise, and watch what they're doing and not what they're saying. I finished Do Not Say We Have Nothing by Madeleine Thien. This was such a good book. It was hard for me at times as I was reading it. I was thinking, I don't know if I can keep doing this. The subject matter is all about, China right before the Cultural Revolution, and then the Cultural Revolution, and then the aftermath. And it's about a family of musicians who teach in the conservatory or are students in the conservatory. So I'm sure you've heard about this. I'm not going to get into the plot of it, but there was one part in the middle that just broke my heart. It broke me. I didn't know if I could keep reading, and then I did, and I was glad. But there's so much to love about this book. high praise for Do Not Say We Have Nothing. I know it's Sean the Book Maniac's favorite book, and that was one of the reasons that I wanted to read it, and so I chose it for a book club, and it was popular. We had a very good discussion about the book, so all in all, very glad I read it. Next, I read a book, if you can call it that. It took me about 20 minutes to read, called August 9th, Fog, and this author, Catherine Scanlon, found this diary, and it was one of those 5-year diaries, so it was just like a sentence a day, and it takes place over a year, and it's like just little phrases, little fragments, and apparently she fictionalized some of it and rearranged some of it, so it's fiction, but it's based on a diary, and yeah, it was an interesting experiment. I don't know that I would pay to buy the book. I don't know that I would spend more time with it, but I did borrow it from the library, and you know, it was interesting, but not something I'd say everyone must go out and seek. Next, I'm going to talk about a book that hasn't come out yet. I was very excited to have been allowed to read an arc of this from NetGalley, so thanks NetGalley, but I read Ann Patchett's The Dutch House, and I basically knew nothing about the premise of this book going in. Here's a better short synopsis of The Dutch House that I think is a better representation of what the book is about. A man who's building a small real estate empire in the Philadelphia area in the 1960s acquires this massive estate in the suburbs, and he buys it as a grand gesture for his wife. They have 2 children, Danny and Maeve, who's the older sister, and the whole novel is about what happens to the characters in relation to the house. It's a grand house, and they are all in their own ways either repelled or drawn to this house, and then events happen. And the book is really about family ties, the broken ones, and about the unbreakable bond between Danny and his sister. Ann Patchett is a master of the nuanced, detailed storytelling that lets readers feel that they are a part of the story, in the room or the car or wherever hearts are exposed. So this book is for readers who love Patchett's previous novel, and for anyone who loves a deep dive into a family's painful history. The other night I finished Kudos by Rachel Cusk. This is the 3rd in her Transit series. Outline? I guess they call it the Outline series. And, I mean, just like the other 2 installments of this trilogy, really not that much happens. It's all about conversations, but kind of embedded in the dialogue and in between the lines, and the subtext of the whole thing is that, you know, men treat women like shit a lot. So especially if a woman is in a divorce situation with children and the man holds all the power in the financial balance of their relationship and their subsequent separation. And it also takes place in Europe, so it's got a European feel. There's a heat wave there. I mean, it feels very contemporary. And, you know, I'd say if you liked the first book, and if you like the second book, you'll like the third. I'm not sure it was quite as satisfying to me as the first and second book, but still, it wraps everything up in a bow of feminine fury. Very subtle feminine fury. And the last book I finished since I've talked to you last is Colm Toibin's The Blackwater Lightship. I believe this was his first novel. It's about AIDS, and it takes place in the early 90s. A family, an estranged family, a woman who's estranged from her mother, grandmother, and has kind of lost touch with her brother, is told that her brother is dying of AIDS, and they all come together at her grandmother's house, and of course family secrets come out, grievances, pain, hurt, and reconciliation to an extent, and it all takes place on a cliff at the edge of the Irish Sea. So there's a real atmospheric feel to it. It's very brief, very short, and I really was touched by it. And you can see that maybe it wasn't quite as well formed as some of his consequent novels, but you could see the core of, you know, how his talent was going to unfold. And I can really recommend this book, and then his, you know, subsequent books. I loved Nora Webster. If you haven't read a character study in a while, that is a beautiful book. Also Brooklyn, and also The Master, which is kind of a fictionalized account of the life of Henry James, another beautiful book. And then House of Names, which is the retelling of the Clytemnestra Agamemnon story. There is a lot in his head, and you know, I'm pro Colm, Toibin, and whatever. I'm not going to give up on him, so he is great. His books always like grab you at the heart and rip it out and put it back in so you can read the next book. So that's what I've been doing in terms of reading recently. You know how you go on Twitter and it's just, you know, the world is, the sky is falling and the sky is falling, and it makes you feel terrible. Well, I found a Twitter thread the other day by Lisa Lucas, who is the executive director of the National Book Award, and she sent out a tweet that said, please tell me your favorite singular one short story, the best short story you ever read. And then so there's like 150 or so responses to that tweet, and I'm going to link that tweet thread, or that thread below. And also, you know, I've been doing a lot of work recently. I've got a lot of layout jobs that I've been working on, both for volunteer positions and for clients. And, you know, sometimes when you have a lot to do, you procrastinate, and then you do something you totally didn't need to do that took 2 hours of the day that you really should have been doing something else. But what I did with 2 hours yesterday was take all of the short stories and authors and put them in a spreadsheet and then export it, and I published it on my kind of dormant blog, so I'm going to link that below. But if you're interested in what the short story selections were, and without reading the thread and reading through it and scrolling, it's all there for you. It's sorted alphabetically by the last name of the author, so you can just see it all there if you're interested. And you'll be glad to know that one of my all-time favorite short story writers, Alice Munro, had the most suggestions, so, you know, go figure. But there's also some amazing other writers, and not just old school short story writers, but contemporary writers as well. So there's so many suggestions, and you can never say you don't know what short story to read if you look at this list. I've been talking for, Jesus, 16 minutes. So much of this is going to get edited. And yeah, I'm going on a long road trip pretty soon, not this next week, but soon after that. So I may be back with a tag video or two before I go, but I'm looking forward to a very long ride clear across to the east part of the United States. And I'm loading up my phone with podcasts and audiobooks and music that we can both agree on, my husband and I. He doesn't like everything I like, but I can find enough common ground material that we can get through the 3,000-mile round trip. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. And in the meantime, keep reading, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.